Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight.
Fire at the British Colonial Hilton forced dozens of employees and tourists alike to evacuate.
New U.S. requirements mean that most visa applicants will have to hand over 5 years' worth of social media information.
The Progressive Liberal Party raises several questions about the appointment of C.A. Smith as the next Governor General.
Regulators are taking a look at possibly implementing a food registry.
Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News, and thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. Top news tonight. One day after former non-resident ambassador C.A. Smith apologized for prematurely announcing that he is set to become the next Governor General, opposition leader Philip Davis says he has been reliably informed that the Queen has yet to approve Smith's appointment, though Smith said otherwise. Davis says this is of great concern to the opposition. However, senior government officials remain silent on this Governor General gaffe. George Urbain reports.
At the party's monthly meeting at their headquarters, leader of the Progressive Liberal Party, Philip Ray Davis, had several questions about the appointment of C.A. Smith as the next Governor General and says the Prime Minister must address the issue immediately.
C.A. Smith also said that his appointment was approved by Buckingham Palace. This is untrue and is therefore of great concern to us. I now note that he has in fact apologize, but the one thing he has not addressed is the fact that his appointment is yet to be approved by Buckingham Palace.
Davis said in addition to showing complete disregard for protocol, he has been advised that Smith's appointment has not yet been approved by the Queen.
My sources would have told me, and I would not have said it was not true. I would not have said that if that was not true.
In an unusual move, Smith told Foreign Affairs staff in Grand Bahama that the Queen had approved his appointment as Governor General and that he would be sworn in on the last Friday in June. The former ambassador also told staffers that Bahamas Air would offer special rates to them for one day to attend his swearing in. The only problem is, government has not yet announced that the Governor General, Dame Marguerite Pinling, is about to demit office or that Smith will be the next Governor General. When asked if the premature announcement makes Smith unfit for the job, Davis said yes.
I think yes. I think he needs to revisit the matter. And the apology, for example, did not take into account this misstatement on his part.
Though Smith has since apologized for the blunder, government officials have yet to comment on the matter. Minister of Labor Dion Folks this morning on the Morning Blend said that he saw the viral video and he saw Smith's apology, but could not comment further. Davis said by now he had expected to hear from the Prime Minister, Dr. Hubert Minnis, on the incident. The PLP leader said that he thinks that the government should re-evaluate its decision.
That's a role for them. I'm not going to tell them what. They don't listen. They'll have to decide what they want to do. But what we know is that if a person could so blatantly, unless he has some reasonable explanation for why he would have said what he said. In other words, if, for example, the Prime Minister told him, I already got the answer from Buckingham, and he's repeating the Prime Minister, then I may be able to excuse him, and then I'll go after the Prime Minister. But on the face of it, we know that has not happened as yet.
Dame Marguerite Pinling has served as Governor General since July 2014. Reporting for Our News, I'm Georgia Obey.
A Bahamian on study leave from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs was found dead in a canal in Italy. This as another Bahamian has been reported missing. 29-year-old Ray Ramsey was in Turin, Italy for a short trip when family members said they didn't hear from him for days. In a statement, former Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell, who worked closely with Ramsey, described him as a brilliant young man filled with hope and promise. He credited Ramsey with great work during the first campaign for the Bahamas to be elected to the Human Rights Council of the United Nations. The search now continues for another Bahamian, Blair John, who is also a student studying abroad. In a statement, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs said a senior diplomat from the Bahamas High Commission in London has been sent to Turin to speak with police and other officials. In other news, the Bahamas National Trust is tonight slamming the practice of cruise ships dumping waste in Bahamian waters. This comes just after Colonial Corporation reached a settlement with U.S. federal prosecutors that would see it pay $20 million in fines for violating terms of its probation.
We've allowed private islands, so now you can have 3 Caribbean destinations right here in the Bahamas. So, we're choice destinations. So what we have to do is not sell ourselves short.
2 years after Carnival Cruise Line pleaded guilty to dumping waste in the ocean and covering it up, the company was found in violation of its probation again, this time admitting to 6 violations. One of them included plastic mixed with food waste in Bahamian waters in December 2018. And now, the Bahamas National Trust is speaking out, recommending that in addition to legislation that would see companies fined or punished for such behavior, government should take it a step further and consider banning companies from doing business in the Bahamas.
If there's a repeat of this and they're fined in the Bahamas, then, potentially, a particular vessel or a company might face a ban from a particular jurisdiction. I mean, countries should have the ability certainly to determine which companies can do business in your company.
The Bahamas National Trust has been fairly quiet on the issue until now. Kerry said as a sovereign nation, the Bahamas needs to be able to levy fines for dumping activity in Bahamian waters.
How widespread is it? I mean, who knows? But in this instance, we have a company that was fined, that has admitted that they broke the conditions of their probation, were caught dumping, and now they're fined again. So it's obviously a problem.
So what do you think should happen if these fines are not enough?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Obviously, we need to make sure that there are penalties that are in place. I mean, that are deterrents.
Both Tourism Minister Dionisio de Aguilar and Environment Minister Amal Ferreira have expressed outrage over the findings and have pledged to put in place legislation that speaks to the issue. Kerry said he's happy with the steps being taken, but would like to see the Bahamas benefit from those fines in the future.
$70 million worth of fines paid in the U.S., and they're paying fines for infractions in the Bahamian waters. Certainly, some of those fines should be paid in the Bahamas and should be used to build up our enforcement capacity.
A mid-morning fire at the British Colonial Hilton forced dozens of hotel guests and employees to evacuate. Jillian Gray has details.
While operations here at the Hilton Hotel have pretty much returned to normal, a fire in their east wing this morning caused quite a stir. Thick black smoke billowed up from the east wing of the building around 11 a.m. Tuesday. Moments earlier, the fire alarm went off, sending guests and employees of the British Colonial Hilton scattering onto the walkway.
Say the hotel on fire. Everyone up to leave.
Baltimore natives Arnold Anthony and his wife Francine are celebrating their 30th wedding anniversary and were in the building when the alarm sounded.
We arrived yesterday, Monday the 3rd, which is our 30th wedding anniversary. We stayed here 30 years ago, so we came back. And of course, right after breakfast, the fire alarm sounded. We had to evacuate.
Though they had to leave the comfort of their hotel, Anthony said the brief disruption did not put a damper on their day. He said the entire process was actually very smooth.
Oh, it was orderly, no really running or screaming or hollering, nothing like that.
Fire Chief Walter Evans said employees of the hotel were working in the elevator shaft when the fire broke out, but it is unclear what caused it. He said when they got the call, 3 fire trucks responded and their team worked quickly to ensure everyone was out of the affected area.
What we can say is all places are being accounted for, there have been no injuries. We also know that also at the eastern area of this facility, we know that the Ministry of Tourism and Aviation, they occupy the facility, and that section of the building was evacuated because of the amount of smoke. The building there, the fire posed no threat to this facility at this point.
No reports of smoke inhalation were reported, and by 1 p.m., all hotel operations had resumed. The hotel is at over 60% occupancy, and all of its conference rooms were occupied at the time. General Manager Pablo Casal thanked his team, who immediately sprung into action.
All the procedures that we have in place were executed, so of course we will meet again afterwards to analyze everything.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jillian Gray.
All right, thank you, Jillian. Bahamians will now have to provide their social media names on most U.S. visa applications. The measure is said to be a part of U.S. President Donald Trump's efforts to enhance immigration vetting. Many Bahamians were shocked by the news. Jared Higgs reports.
The U.S. Department of State has updated its immigrant and non-immigrant visa application forms to include social media identifiers for most U.S. visa applicants, according to U.S. Embassy spokesperson Penny Reckheimer. Reckheimer says the new measure, which was initially announced last year in the Federal Register, is a result of the President's March 6, 2017 memorandum on implementing heightened screening and vetting of applications for visas and other immigration benefits, and Section 5 of Executive Order 13780 regarding implementing uniform screening and vetting standards for visa applications. Reckheimer added that national security is the United States' top priority when adjudicating visa applications, and every prospective traveler and immigrant to the United States undergoes extensive security screening. Now, we spoke to members of the public, some of them giving us differing reactions, however, many suggesting that the measure is simply too intrusive. 26-year-old Marvin Gordon and 40-year-old Trevor Woods were just two of several skeptics.
I wouldn't think that's right, no. In no kind of way, because that's poisonous. So in any regard, that's your own information, so I don't think that you should hand that over, because that's family, friends, so no.
And to me, that make no sense. I wouldn't think I'll even go get a visa if it could be like that.
64-year-old Audrey Williams and others we spoke with expressed bewilderment with the new rule.
I'm at a loss for words because I don't understand what's the relevance, with regards to your social media and in relation to being given a visa. So I don't see the relevance.
I don't really understand that.
You think it's intrusive?
Yes, it is. Why? Why would they want that? America really wants to control everything, right?
I have Instagram, I have Facebook, I have Twitter. Yeah, and that's something that most of my accounts are private, so I don't expect to have to be able to share my personal life,
With most people expressing apprehension, others, like 22-year-old Alida McDonald and 64-year-old Kenneth Hanschel, didn't see the big deal.
I don't think it's so much of a problem, actually, because our information is already on social media. It's already exposed to the world, so them having to access that as a requirement, it's not such a big of a problem.
That is, it's their country. They can do what they want to do. So if I want to go, I'll have to do it. So I have no problem with them doing what because it's their country.
Previously, only applicants who had been identified as needing extra scrutiny were required to provide social media, email, and phone number histories. According to the Associated Press, the requirement used to affect about 65,000 applicants annually, but it is now expected to affect around 15 million applicants per year. Reporting for our news, I'm Jared Higgs.
A 19-year-old man appeared in the magistrate's court today accused of murder in relation to a killing that took place last week. Wesley Delhomme was not required to enter a plea to a charge that he murdered James Delane on Raymond Road back on May 29th. Delhomme was also charged with 3 counts of attempted murder. He was not required to enter a plea. Delhomme was remanded to the Bahamas Department of Corrections until July 17th, when he will return to court for the service of a voluntary will of indictment. He was represented by attorney Nathan Smith. Well, amid several food recalls at local stores in recent months, the Bahamas Agricultural Health and Food Safety Authority is pledging a crackdown on hazardous products being sold to consumers. Jasmine Brown has more.
Those officials admitting today that food quality is a serious issue that needs to be addressed head-on with proper regulation.
I guess you can call us sort of like, the police. We will be working, like I said, with the enforcement agencies to ensure that they do what they need to do.
The Bahamas Agricultural Health and Food Safety Authority is in charge of the regulatory process. Dr. Johnson said a priority for the recently formed regulatory body is establishing a food registry to catalog what foods are being sold in grocery stores across the country. She admitted that as it stands, the response time for food recalls could be a lot quicker.
And helping to strengthen our ability to be able to recall food items in a timely manner, we will be proposing the development of a food registry. And that will allow retailers, wholesalers, and all persons who import foods to be able to register the foods that they bring into the country to allow us a better time period or a quicker response for items that are being recalled.
BAFSA was formed after parliamentarians passed key legislation under the former Christie administration. BAFSA was created as the national government regulator to coordinate the implementation and management of the 3 acts of environmental health legislation. In recent weeks, BAFSA has issued several food recalls, including one on beef franks and another on raw beef. Dr. Johnson says BAFSA is working closely with its partners to uphold proper standards.
So we will work with partnering agencies to ensure that food safety measures are kept high.
Reporting for our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
All right, thanks, Jasmine. Still to come, a cabinet minister admits he's not happy with his ministry's budget allocation, plus how the Bureau of Standards and Quality is observing World Accreditation Day. Stay tuned.